You have hearing impairment from your military service, and now you're fighting with the VA to try to get the rating that you deserve. I'll tell you, most vets don't know that there's one key form that is holding you back from your 0% hearing loss, or maybe even you have a low rating for the ringing in your ears, and the rating that you deserve, which actually is more than 4 figures per month, tax-free to you and your household. Today, I'm breaking it down for you, showing you exactly what that is. Not only that, I'm proving to you that this system works in the real world. I'm Jordan Anderson, 100% permanent and total rated Air Force veteran, also proud founder of VA Claims Academy, a company that helps veterans like you get rated what you deserve. You ready to get after it? Let's go. Right now, there's a major problem with the hearing loss VA rating. And in my opinion, this is harming so many veterans who aren't familiar with the VA rating system. And that is kind of what you're looking at. The VA will often recognize that, hey, you've got some bad hearing loss. All that acoustic trauma that you dealt with during service, the small arms fire, the explosives going off, whatever it may be, the motor pool, right? Maybe you have heavy machinery operating all around you. That clearly degraded your hearing. Our bad. We'll take the fall for that. We're going to service connect you for this. But what ends up happening is you actually get administered, and oftentimes a hearing aid, a hearing device. Then the VA claims that they solved your hearing loss problem and award you a whopping 0% VA disability rating. That's the unfortunate fact here, is that most hearing loss ratings end up, unfortunately, being a 0% rating. Now, very importantly, I don't want you to be discouraged by that fact, because it actually affords you a tremendous opportunity, because a 0% rating is different from something that's not service connected at all. This gives you something to work with. And I'm going to show you the strategy that takes this 0% rating, which again is $0 per month, not very exciting, not very useful or beneficial to you and your family. And you can turn it, very commonly I see this with clients, and actually it can be even more, but to $1,100 per month plus. Oftentimes this could even be $1,700 per month. I'm going to show you, but first, here's some proof. Just from this past week, these are clients who have won using these types of strategies. This individual had 0 records for military service, has been out for 34 years, signed up with us 1 year ago, and has gone from a 0% rating, nothing, that's $0 per month, now has gotten a 60% VA disability rating. In our second strafe, we got a 100% VA disability rating for this client. Life-changing stuff. So if you're watching me and saying, but Jordan, I don't have records, or I've been out too long, trust me, this is going to work. I'm going to show you. Next, this is a different individual, received a 60% rating from 0% for the very first try after being out, again, a long time. And next we have 4 days ago, another one of our clients who we got a 100% permanent and total verified VA rating, which by the way also means that all of their student debt that they have accrued gets instantly forgiven. And finally, the last showcase of our clients just from this week, again, we've received a 100% VA rating after a 2-year fight, and this was one of our ladies. So good job, and I want you to be next. Now, let's get back into it. We're talking about, again, very commonly, $1,100 per month from a 0% rating, which is hearing loss. How do we do this? Okay, we do this by telling the VA the whole impact that your hearing impairment, or again, maybe ringing in your ears, right? It could be tinnitus, is having on you as a human being. When I say whole impact, here's what I mean. Whenever I'm speaking with a veteran on the phone, oftentimes you'll get the same sort of symptoms that, we're sort of all suffering from. Irritability, maybe your patience just gets, less and less as the years go on. You're starting to react sort of disproportionately to certain inputs. So maybe you might have something just might make you snap, which, years ago it wouldn't have, or decades ago it wouldn't have. This is very seldom connected to things that you've been dealing with for many years, particularly because you're ignoring them, right? Sort of like if you have an AC unit that is very loud, but it's just so constant that you don't even notice that it was super annoying until it shut off. This could be the hearing loss effect. This could be the ringing in your ears effect, which is that constant that you're kind of ignoring, that you didn't look at the whole impact and realize that it could be a main cause of these irritability, being short with your spouse, your loved ones, your kids, your grandkids, maybe the inability to be reliable at work or to your friendships, maybe the inability to socialize whatsoever, right? It can have different ranges of impacts, but for almost everyone, certainly having these impairments does have an impact. So what we got to do first is we have to acknowledge the whole impact and then be able to put that into words to the VA. And it's beneficial because of this. You're going to see what we do is identify the mental effects. Okay, it's not a matter of whether they're there or not. It's a matter of being vulnerable with yourself enough to identify them. Here is the mind switch. Depending on how long you served in the military, you were conditioned, right? You were conditioned to think about the service before yourself, about your brother or sister in arms before yourself, about the mission before self. Everyone came first before yourself. The difficult and the challenge lies in sort of undoing that conditioning and being aware enough to now, hey, I'm starting to think about myself and these impacts long enough to see what these mental impacts could be. The fact that, okay, maybe I'm not just grouchy, this could be something diagnosable, which 9 times out of 10, it is. It doesn't mean that you're crazy or even that you have a significant mental impairment. It just means that, hey, this caused that. Your hearing impairment caused you to be bummed out a little bit. This is important because this leads us into the meat and potatoes, which is our secondary claim. This is how you multiply this low value rating and turn it into something that's actually going to give you a high VA rating. Now, just very briefly, a secondary claim is similar to any VA claim, except rather than us arguing that, let's say in this case you have some depression going on, maybe some generalized anxiety disorder, perhaps something called somatic symptom disorder, whatever it is that your psychiatrist may diagnose you with in the future, or maybe you've already been diagnosed with, rather than stating that this was directly caused by our military service, in this case, a secondary claim is we're stating that this wasn't caused by our service, but it was caused by a condition that is already rated at 0% or higher by the VA. Why 0% or higher? Well, because just like I told you at the beginning of the video, 0% doesn't mean not service connected, right? Those are two different things. You may have hearing loss at 0%, but your back pain got denied altogether. So therefore, the VA is rejecting the fact that your back was due to your service. But they admit that your hearing loss is due to your service. So the fact that that 0% rating, doesn't matter that it's 0%, it's service connected. Now you can claim something as a secondary to it, and you're anchoring these new conditions to your service, okay? It's sort of a more complex way to get service connected, but it allows you flexibility even decades removed, as you saw with some of our clients. So some of y'all are thinking, Jordan, this is too good to be true. How could this possibly be a 50% rating? Well, actually, I gave you below the average number because the average rating for this is actually a 70% rating. That's what we see very often with our clients in particular. However, I'm being conservative because maybe people who don't have as serious of mental symptoms, a 50% rating could be more up your alley, okay? So what I have here are the mental criteria for the 50% rating, because I'm going to sort of speak this out loud and you're going to say, wow, that's actually not very severe. Almost anyone could fall into this category. All right, so the veteran has some impairment in the ability to function socially and at work, resulting from a lack of reliability and productivity due to symptoms such as, okay, now remember, those of you who are watchers of this channel very frequently, whenever you say such as, right, we're always thinking like a lawyer, right? Whenever you see the words such as, that means that whatever comes after that colon, really you could discard. Okay, it's not very important because it's just examples. Okay, it's such as, so including maybe but not limited to, essentially is what it's saying. So again, when it says here, panic attacks, you'll have a lot of veterans say, I don't have panic attacks, therefore I don't qualify for this rating criteria, I don't qualify for a 50%. It's just saying such as. What you really need to identify is, hey, some impairment. That's kind of the gist of the 50% rating threshold as it stands right now with mental ratings. And again, if you're watching this from the far future, the mental criteria could have changed. But as of right now, right, it's about your level of social and occupational impairment. In this case, it's like, meh, yeah, you have some impairment. You have some impairment to being reliable at work, perhaps, some impairments socially. So, what I was talking about earlier, where you're short with your loved ones, maybe it's hard to get motivated to get out and socialize. That's some impairment. You don't even think about it, and you didn't even connect it to the fact that you have this hearing loss, the fact that you have the crazy ringing in your ears even. Hey, if you're getting value from this video, do me a huge favor, hit that thumbs up button for me. So let's have a little fun right here, right? Let's go up to the 70% rating threshold. Again, this is the average rating for a mental condition, totaling, if you only got this rating, you're talking about around $1,760 per month tax-free to you and your family, just with this rating alone, okay? Veterans unable to function in most social and work areas with symptoms such as. So it's essentially, it's severe social and occupational impairment, right? So if your social and occupational impairment is more severe and you can write a solid personal statement which articulates that fact in a way that the VA will understand it, and that's what we specialize here for clients. I write personal statement drafts for clients, right? That's when you can really get those higher ratings. This even goes up to the 100% rating threshold. Yes, that means that you can turn a 0% hearing loss rating into a 100% permanent and total rating. It is possible. At this point, you're talking about total social and occupational impairment. Basically, you cannot hold down a job, and you really can't hold down many relationships either, right? I just wanted to get you that because it's sort of straight from the horse's mouth in terms of the rating criteria for these mental conditions, and that way you see that it's high value. Now let's go back to how to actually connect this so you can win the rating in real life. I like to break this down into 1, 2, 3 steps. That way it's so easy. I like to say a caveman can do it, right? First step, that way it's not overwhelming for you, right? Many people make VA claims so overwhelming and complex. The VA is complex enough. We don't need to make it even more confusing. So step 1 out of 3, you're going to need a medical diagnosis, okay? You're going to need a medical diagnosis. So whatever, a little bit of, again, it doesn't have to be super severe, but many, mental ailments end up being diagnosed just after a few appointments. And it could be mild general anxiety disorder. It could be some mild depression, right? But a diagnosis allows you something to actually get service connected, because I'll tell you right now, if you don't have a diagnosis and you end up never getting diagnosed, there's nothing to get rated for, because the VA claims process, I don't need to tell you, isn't a process based in reality. It's a process based in paperwork, okay? So what do you need to bring to this fight? You need the paperwork on your side, which means having a doctor diagnose you. I'm going to abbreviate that to DX, okay? That's a diagnosis, a medical diagnosis on paper, even if it's brand new. Again, the client who won after 34 years. If you got out 34 years ago and you've never been diagnosed with depression until you book an appointment next month, that's still fine. You can still get it service connected. What is number 2? Number 2 is the key document that I was referencing here, because this truly is the glue that brings this all together. Okay, could make or break your entire VA claim. This is the one document that I'm talking about. And what I mean by this is we need a nexus letter. A nexus letter, okay? This, very briefly, is a note from your doctor giving their opinion that your mental condition is at least as likely as not due to your hearing impairment, which is a very common thing, right? A nexus letter is the medical evidence that you need. That means that the doctor is giving their medical opinion in your favor that your condition, which isn't service connected yet, should be service connected. Talk about being able to make up for the fact that maybe you never went to the doctor during military service. How much of a blessing is it to be able to go out and get these nexus letters, which now can give you that medical evidence? Because I don't think you have a time machine to go back in service and do that, right? So this is hugely powerful because it gives you medical evidence even in the present that could still retroactively undo the lack of evidence in your file. Okay, this again largely is the make or break that I see for many veterans. Now you can do this a couple of ways, right? I write nexus letter templates for clients. You can go that route with VA Claims Academy. Okay, you could also go to vadisabilitydoctors.com. If your medical providers just will not sign a nexus letter for you, in that case, you would have to pay for a board certified doctor's time. Now that gets expensive because insurance doesn't cover it. You're paying for, a quality doctor out of pocket and the research and the writing that they do. It gets pricey. However, I showed you how high value this claim could be, so it's up to you whether that's worth it to you or not. A nexus letter, I can't stress enough, is the key that makes secondary conditions and secondary claims really work reliably. And look at that. We're already 2 out of 3 already done, right? Very simple 1, 2, 3 process. Again, if you're getting value from this video, hit that like button for me. The final kind of ingredient that we need here to really deliver a solid, robust claim is going to be reinforcing our lay evidence. I'm going to explain to you what that means. Many of us have heard of a buddy letter in VA disability claims, right? So for instance, maybe your battle buddy saw that you were snoring and waking up gasping for air, in your bunk, right? Or in your barracks. Then they weigh in on a buddy letter saying that, yes, hey, we saw him. He didn't go to the doctor, but yeah, woke up gasping for air. And that could be a little bit of evidence to help you get, let's say, sleep apnea service connected, right? What people don't actually realize is that buddy letters aren't nearly as necessary as a personal statement is from the veteran themselves, okay? So it doesn't get any better than you telling your own story directly to the VA rater, and that's exactly what you're doing. And this actually counts as evidence into your VA claim file, okay? So take advantage because, again, you may have a lack of medical evidence. Thankfully, maybe you can get a nexus letter and that's reinforced a bit. But if you have a lack of medical evidence, you definitely need to add all the lay evidence that you can to help make a clear picture for the VA to easily stamp, okay, approved. I got the picture, right? And don't leave them guessing because you're not going to like what they assume, right? So spell it out for them. In this case, a personal statement for your mental condition secondary to your hearing impairment or even your ringing in your ears would look like this. You're telling your story, right? Hey, I used to have great hearing. Now, I have hearing loss that's service connected, as you know, right? You don't have to go into how your hearing loss started and all this stuff because your hearing loss in this case is already service connected. So you talk about how your hearing loss impacts you mentally. And you want to go back to these criteria, right? And talk about how now your mental condition, which is medically diagnosed, right? We're doing this the right way, right? And how this affects you at your work and how this affects you in your relationships. Again, here's some, examples for your sort of inspiration, right? Obsessive behaviors, persistent and severe depression, whatnot, inability to handle stress, right? These are ideas, again, the such as sort of criteria, but it doesn't have to be these. It could be other things that affect you at work or in your social life, okay? Tell that story, make it short and sweet so that someone actually reads it at the VA And you're going to be so surprised at how powerful that is for reliably allowing you to win this claim. Submit your personal statement. On the personal statement form, you can just Google VA personal statement form. It's going to be 21-4138. Okay, that's the form. And then you're done. Submit your claim. Okay, let's go from the top on this. What's the problem with hearing loss claims? The problem is that almost all of us have hearing impairment in some sort. However, it doesn't actually equivalent to a high value condition, even though it could affect your life in many ways. So what's the process of actually winning this? Think about the whole impact. You have to be vulnerable with yourself, identify the mental effects that it could be having, right? Speak to someone, a psychiatrist, and they're going to diagnose you eventually, okay? They might diagnose you with something eventually. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be generalized anxiety disorder, depression, it could be somatic symptom disorder. It really doesn't matter, right? All the mental conditions are rated the exact same, the same criteria. And by the way, you cannot stack mental conditions. So if you're already rated for a mental condition, adding another one doesn't help. It all gets mushed into the same overall mental rating. You have a medical diagnosis. Now, guess what do you need? You need a nexus, right? You need that connection. Go to vadisabilitydoctors.com, become a VA Claims Academy, client, whichever it is. Go to your own doctor, maybe they'll write a nexus letter for you. But you're going to want that nexus letter to really help your odds at winning this claim. Lastly, this is free, right? Writing this personal statement. Are you going to send this claim off without giving your voice, without telling them what's going on? Not very smart, right? Don't waste your time. Write a personal statement, submit it. It's really going to be things that ties this entire claim together and makes it a solid, high value claim. Fellow vets, I really hope this helped you out. If it did, definitely hit that thumbs up button and let me know what you think below with your thoughts. Cheers.